Alright, Mono Blue Delver, match 2. We are on the draw, and believe it or not, we can't keep this hand because there are no lands. Alright, this hand is pretty bad. Ninja is awful if you don't have a 1-drop to combo with it, or even a 2-drop like Spell Stutter because it takes so long to cast it. We have reactive cards. We don't really want to gush on our second turn to try to find more action. I think we just have to keep it though and try to mulligan or try to scry a 1-drop creature to the top. So that's not a 1-drop creature. Jungle Hollow, okay. Graveyard deck perhaps. Delver of Secrets is just what the doctor ordered. Executioner's Capsule. Alright, this is a really cool deck if it is what I think it is. Not going to reveal Fairy Miscreant. So I can play Ninja, but that plays into Executioner's Capsule. The problem is that no matter what I do, the Executioner's Capsule is going to get something. So I think it makes more sense to ninjutsu this turn, try to hit lands. Force our opponent to use the capsule and not do something else. So the deck that we're going up against, I believe, is full of Trinket Mage to go find the Executioner's Capsule. And then the 1-drop that kills a creature, or gives it -13/-13 if Morbid was triggered. Alright, so they're killing it with a capsule. I'm trying to remember what that card is called. Okay, I found it. It's Tragic Slip. So it has Tragic Slip and then some creatures that can kill themselves to turn on Tragic Slip, like Crypt Rats and so on. So I could play Fairy, leave open Spell Stutter to counter a 2-drop, but I'd rather leave open Vapor Snag this turn and Spell Stutter on a future turn, so I'm going to try that. Brindle Board, that's the other card. It can sacrifice to gain 4 life, so it has some pretty good stuff against aggressive decks such as our own. Secure a Tribalder, okay. Not going to Vapor Snag that since it could just sacrifice anyway. Still can't flip this Delver, unfortunately. I'm not going to trade that with a Secure Tribalder. I think it's a little bit early to gush right now, so I'm going to wait on that as well. Alright, there's the Brindle Boar. So we are unfortunately short on fairies to be able to counter a 3-drop. And we're going to have to take 1 here. Come on, Delver. Still nothing. Attack for 1. I think I'm just going to hardcast Gush on their end step. I don't want to pick up islands right now. Thornwood Falls. And once again, I'm just going to take this damage. I don't want to waste a Vapor Snag when they can just sacrifice the creature anyway. Alright, time to cast Gush. Casting Gush for full value almost never happens, but it is happening now. Alright, another Fairy Miscreant. Okay, everything is going my way now. I got to flip my Delver. I'm going to get to draw off this Fairy Miscreant unless they kill it. The other one. My Spire Golem is getting very close to just being free. Start off with a Ponder. Bone Splitter, Counterspell, Preordain. I think I'm winning this damage race as it currently sits, so I'm okay with this. So I'll go Preordain, Bone Splitter, Counterspell. And I get to attack. Play a Spire Golem, and leave open both Spellstutter, Sprite, and Counterspell. Well, not at the same time. I get to leave either of them up. Krosan Tusker gets cycled. They get to go find a land and also draw a card. They get a swamp. And play that swamp. So the spells we really care about here are Crypt Rats, because it can wipe our board. And I think that's just the main thing. Alright. There is the Crypt Rats. Now I could get very greedy and I could Spell Stutter here, but if our opponent has Tragic Slip or any other kill spell in order to take out a Fairy Miscreant, or even a Spell Stutter when it enters the battlefield, then I will not have enough fairies. So I'm going to use up my hard counter spell on this Crypt Rats and hope they don't have another one. Alright, they're evoking a Mole Drifter. I believe they also play Undying Evil? Yep, they do. Alright, so they're going to Undying Evil this Mole Drifter so that when it evokes, it comes back with a +1/+1 counter. It is annoying, but we're probably going to have to Vapor Snag that. They'll get to cast it again, but we need to be able to get in for damage. And if we don't Vapor Snag it, then we can only attack with Insectile Aberration and Spire Golem, and they get to trade off with the Insectile Aberration, which isn't very good for us. I could also Bone Splitter and attack with a Fairy Miscreant as well, but I think I want to let our opponent have as many cards as they want and just try to be aggressive. They have 4 life to gain from this Brindle Boar, so they're at 19. Vapor Snag puts them at 18. The other Vapor Snag will eventually put them at 17. I'm going to attack them in the air for 7 this turn, take them down to a virtual 10. 8 if I play Bone Splitter. Yeah, I think that's the answer. So Vapor Snag, play and equip Bone Splitter, and leave open Spell Stutter Sprite is what I'm going to try to do. Our opponent can still hard cast Mole Drifter, which is annoying. But like I said, I think our opponent is going to have all the card advantage they want, and we just need to try to kill them before all that card advantage matters. And I'm pretty sure I miscounted somewhere because no, I didn't miscount. This Brindle Boar hasn't sacrificed itself yet. A Vault of Whispers. This is probably a one-of for the Trinket Mage to find. They probably have 1 Seed of the Synod as well, and maybe one of the green lands whose name escapes me. Tree of Tales. Alright, there's the Mole Drifter. Opponent has 8 cards in hand, so let's see what we can do with it. They can do with those cards. A Sylvok Light Staff. Okay, this equips for only 1 and is another very good tool against aggressive decks. So they're going to try to equip the Brindle Boar. So I have the option to Vapor Snag now, and I think I'm going to take it. I think this works out pretty well for us. Alternatively, I could have Spell Stutter Sprited this. Yeah, that was the play. I was only thinking about Vapor Snagging something on their end step, and I forgot about the Spell Stutter in my hand. Tragic Slip takes down my 3/2. Brindle Boar gets sacrificed anyway. And now the Mole Drifter is also going to get suited up, and they're going to gain another 3 life. Yeah, I really should have Spell Stutter Sprited that. And that was a huge misplay on my part. Alright. Island on bottom. Preordain on bottom. I need to find something faster than that. Spire Golem Ninja. This is probably good enough. Let's attack. Giving them the option to trade off with a Fairy Miscreant. Although I would rather them block this, I believe, so that I can replay both Spire Golems this turn. I believe they would still block the Spire Golem if I only gave them that option, though. So chances are good we're going to lose this game because we were just not paying enough attention. Our opponent might have another Sylvok Life Staff in hand where it would have made it irrelevant, but we should have been paying more attention. That is one of the problems with talking while I play. I'm not very good at it yet. I've done this series 11 times now. I think this is the 11th time. Maybe it's the 10th, but I'm still not completely used to it. Alright. I only have 2 fairies now, so I can't counter a Trinket Mage. They do need to find another Crypt Rats probably to wipe the boards, or the Spire Golems should get there eventually. Executioner's Capsule, okay. That is something I can counter even if they kill one of my fairies. If they kill 2 of them, then obviously it won't work. Sakura Tribalder, I'm not too scared of that. They do get to gain life, but as long as it doesn't block my creatures in the air, we should eventually outrace the Sylvok life gain. And equipping the Trinket Mage as well, okay. Spell Stutter was a good draw. So we'll put this on a Fairy Miscreant, I guess. I'm not going to attack with the Ninja. No point in giving them life for no reason. Just attack with the Flyers. Alright, hit them down to 8, and hopefully we can overcome our misplay by not countering that Life Staff. We have Spell Stutter for 3 available, and we can still get spells 2 or less through a kill spell. They can Crypt Rats for 4 here? Alright. I'm going to try to do this, because if our opponent does this for 4, then we have to find... Well, even Vapor Snag doesn't do it, because then this will die and they'll gain another 3 life. So... now if they get to kill one of our fairies in response so that this doesn't work, it's obviously bad for us. But maybe it costs them so much mana they can't still do it for 4? Okay, it got countered. That was very lucky. Another Brindleborb might buy them a turn. Grim Harvest for Crypt Rats, okay. And they can still activate it for 4. Oh my goodness. Yep, if we had countered that one Sylvok Lifestaff, we might have been able to kill them before this Crypt Rat's turn, hopefully. But maybe not. Okay, this resolves. Luckily, the Grim Harvest at least gets exiled, so that's something. And we draw a land. Trinket Mage. Revealing another Life Staff, so they can equip something twice before they kill it. Bajuka Bog. That's fine, doesn't do anything to us. We draw another land. Our opponent's had 2 cards in hand. So if we can draw a Spire Golem right now, and they can't kill their Trinket or our Spire Golem, we could be okay. Force Spike is not a good draw on turn 12, unfortunately. Cross and Tusker gets cycled instead of cast for some reason. And now we're going to be down on board next turn. And another Force Spike, yep. Alright, we're down a game when we maybe shouldn't have been. There are no changes I want to make to the sideboard here. Their creatures aren't generally big enough for Cursive Chains to matter, although they could bring in Gurmag Anglerers. Hydroblast doesn't hit anything. Stormbound Geist doesn't really match up well. It survives 1 Crypt Rat's activation, I suppose, but I don't think that's where we want to go. And a Null hits Sylvok Lifestaff, but so does Counterspell and Spellstutter Sprite. And this doesn't hit anything else. I guess it hits Executioner's Capsule. Maybe those 2 cards is enough to consider. I suppose I'll try to be a little bit faster. I'll get rid of 1 Annul. I'll bring in 1 Annul and 1 Geist and get rid of 2 Gushes. I think those are going to be better on average than 2 random cards, hopefully. And we'll submit this. Alright, we do want to play first. And once again, we have no lands. Our opponent mulliganed as well this time, though. I don't love this hand, but I am going to keep it. Hopefully Scryland to the top. Force Spike, that goes away. I could try to counter a turn 1 Sylvok Lifestaff, but I need to dig for lands. I could be really odd here and put on top Counterspell then Delver. Next turn... No, that doesn't even work, because I can't play the Delver this turn. Alright, there's a land, perfect. Next turn, hopefully Spellstutter Sprite a 1-drop, and then put a Ninja into play. Although, I just drew Delver, so that changes my mind. Play Delver first. Alright, come on, Blind Flip. Island. Alright. Not going to ninja this turn. It makes my mana too weird. I can only leave open Force Spike after that. Flip, flip, flip. Another island. Not great. Now I am going to bring in a ninja. I need to start doing something. And I get to leave open actual counterspell this turn. Our opponent does not do anything about it. I think I'm going to take the greedy play here and play double Delver of Secrets. We know our opponent most likely does not have a kill spell in hand. Or if they do, it's a Tragic Slip, which can only do -1/-1, and we'll only get one of these Delvers. It's really awkward if we let our opponent resolve a Crypt Rats, because then they can activate it for 1 immediately and kill the Delvers, or they can wait and kill everything. But I don't know if I can just leave open Counter Magic for Crypt Rats for forever. Spellsetter will not hit it anytime soon. Counterspell will, but I don't want to leave open 2 mana every single turn. Force Spike probably won't. So I think I'm going to be greedy. This is going to be bad against Crypt Rats, I recognize, but I think I just have to pretend my opponent doesn't have Crypt Rats in hand. Alright, Krosan Tusker gets cycled. Basically the green divination. You get to draw a random card in 1 land and put a Krosan Tusker in your yard, and occasionally you want to even cast a 7 mana 6/5. Alright, there's a Muldrifter. Let's see if they have an Undying Evil to combo with it. They do. So it turns out leaving open Force Spike probably would have been pretty good that turn, since I could have Force Spiked the Undying Evil. Discarding a Deep Analysis. Fairy Miscreant. Okay. Fairly awful. Play that out and leave open some counter magic. And now I'm trying to dig for a Vapor Snag for this Muldrifter so I can start attacking. Trinket Mage. I don't particularly want that to resolve, so I think I will counter it. And I'll Force Spike that while I have the chance. So what I'm really hoping to do is flip over both these Delver of Secrets, revealing Vapor Snag. Snag the Muldrifter, get in and draw a card with the Ninja. Deal a total of 9 damage. 10 if you count the life loss from Vapor Snag. That would just be great. Alright, well, that buys us some time. And we can try to get our opponent to trade off to make our Ninja better. So we'll see if they want to do that. They do not. But they can't take 6 forever. They have 2 more turns of taking 6 before they die. They know we have a counterspell in hand, so they have to play around that as well. They haven't played a land yet this turn, so if they just go get a Sivok Lifestaff, we're kind of priced into countering that. So I think this is good enough. Additionally, unless our opponent goes land and 3-drop, the Spell Stutter is going to be good for a counterspell this turn now. Do I want to counter Secure a Tri-Builder? I think I do, just to get another thing onto the battlefield. And they might need the mana. Growth Chamber picks up a basic forest. Come on, Vapor Snag. Stormbound Geist. So I think at this point I'm willing to throw away a Ninja to deal more damage. So I'm going to attack with all here. Deal 8, take them down to 4. And now if they block a Insectile Aberration next turn, they still take 7. So they need to gain some life. So Sivok Lifestaff alone will not do it. A Boar will give them enough time. We'll see what they have, though. They have Crypt Rats. So here's where Stormbound Geist is sort of going to shine. They can activate it for 2, go down to 2, and then we have a 3/3 facing their 3/3. And at that point, if we draw a Vapor Snag, we can attack for lethal. They gain a life from a Thornwood Falls. So we attack. Our opponent is forced to do this Crypt Rats for 2 pre-damage. Undying triggers. We won't play this land, I suppose. Try to fake that we have something. Brindle Boar is going to gain them some life. Yeah, this is not looking good for us. Spellstutter Sprite. Okay, that can counter a staff or a capsule, not much else. I suppose an Undying Evil. Undying Evil targeting Brindle Boar. Okay, well, I don't want them gaining life, so I'm going to try to counter that. And it works, thankfully. So now we're still a Vapor Snag away from victory. Well, not victory, because they can gain life with Brindle Boar, but it would do something, that's for sure. Alright, they gain their life. They Tragic Slip, because now Morbid is triggered. They play another Crypt Rats, and now they have plenty of life to work with. They flashback Deep Analysis to draw some cards, and now they can sit back on that Crypt Rats until we pose a threat, and then pop it. Chainer's Edict, and they can flash that back on their next turn. Yeah, I think this game is over. Null Drifter should put us out of our misery quickly. I suppose I'll hardcast this. I don't think it makes a difference either way. So this is a cool new deck. I've seen it in the tournament practice room a lot. This is the first time we've run into it on a league. But I hope to see it around some more. It's basically just a Sultai value deck. Grim Harvest targeting Brindle Boar. They have a lot of ways to get the creatures back with Grim Harvest. They have ways to recur them. Civic Life Staff is sweet in the deck, as is Brindle Boar. I'm not really sure what their options are when they don't need to gain life for sideboarding into against control, but they probably have some good stuff, duresses and whatnot, since they're in black. All right. Flash back the Chainers. All right, Spire Golem. They have another Mole Drifter. Yeah, Mono Blue Delver is not equipped with the tools to come back from a game like this. Once your creatures all get wiped, the only card that you have in your deck that draws multiple cards at once is Gush. Or if you're cheating, you can count Ninja the Deep Hours, since it can let you draw more than one card per turn. But in general, you can't come back and deploy a bunch of creatures again unless you've been saving them in hand, which you generally have not been doing. If they don't chump here, I can draw a card and play another Spire Golem. But it's not a chump when they trade with the Fume Spitter. Grim Harvest targeting Fume Spitter. Yeah, this deck is a finely tuned machine of value. Another Deep Analysis. And they have a Civic Life Staff. And they equip it up. Fume Spitter. Return Grim Harvest to their hand. Now I'm the one chump blocking instead of them chump attacking. Now they have 2 lethal creatures in the air. To my 1 blocker. Recast Grim Harvest. Or they can just Crypt Rats to kill us. So we did lose the match, unfortunately, but we got to see a cool new deck for the first time, so that's kind of fun. Hopefully we get to play that deck on a future week of Pennywise Pauper. It looks like a lot of fun to tinker around with. All right, on to match 3.